Hey guys, welcome back to The Readers. I hope you are having an amazing day. Let's get right into the stories. The first one is a pro-revenge story. This happened in the early 2020s, just before the pandemic hit and remote work became the norm. I was hired as a content creator for a community college that wanted to leverage TikTok and Instagram Reels to kickstart their branding campaign. The pay was low, roughly $3,000, and back then, there weren't many video content creators who specialized in short-form educational content. The process usually took a long time from start to finish. I was hired, and on my second day, my manager Sarah presented my KPI of 115 60-second videos in 52 weeks. This was nearly impossible for a one-person team in those days. I had to do the scripting, producing, casting talents, shooting videos, finding royalty-free music, they were too cheap to pay for a subscription, and editing, all of which I had to use my own equipment and software because their cameras and computers were so old they simply couldn't handle the strain of even doing things in 1080p, much less 4K. I tried to let Sarah know, but she just smiled encouragingly. "Give it a try, Alex," she said. "If the videos are good, I won't focus too much on the quantity." Hearing this, I agreed to give it a shot. Sarah treated me well in the first month. However, one day when she found out I vaped, her attitude changed overnight. A colleague, Jessica, had actually done a facepalm when I told her about it. "Oh no, Alex," Jessica groaned. "Sarah hates vapors. She often tries to get them fired." From that day on, Sarah started nitpicking everything. She'd complain about me smelling like vape juice after my breaks, coming in 5-10 minutes late despite doing more than 4 hours of overtime daily, not being contactable during break times. The list went on, but I soldiered on because I just wanted to do the work and do it well. 5 months in, I was called into the dean's office where I saw Sarah putting on her best, displeased but gleeful face, and I felt my stomach drop. The dean, Dr. Thompson, told me, "Alex, I'm disappointed. I've heard you're falling behind on your work. It's already halfway through the year, and you've only completed 35 out of your 100 videos," I tried to explain. "Dr. Thompson, I've been working my butt off on these videos. I literally work 6 days out of the week, over 60 hours just to do what needs to be done. Being a one-person team makes things impossible. Plus, the videos I've put up have the highest views ever on our TikTok and Instagram." "That may be true," Dr. Thompson replied, "but the KPI is simply 100 videos in a year. Since it's almost half a year in with your numbers at less than half, I feel it's prudent to cut the cord early." "How will you even meet the KPI if you fire me now?" I asked. Sarah snorted. "We'll find a professional production house to finish your work." Dr. Thompson gave her an odd look, but nodded in support nonetheless, telling me, "You don't need to worry, Sarah will get the job done." That was when a light bulb went off in my head. As the content professional in the office, one of my jobs was to keep a database of production houses to use in case we needed to do a shoot that required more resources. I was sure they would be using the production houses in my database as Sarah had no contacts in the production industry. So I changed the contact numbers and messed up all the emails on all of the entries except one. That one belonged to my friend Mike, who worked as a junior director at a small production company. I gave Mike a call and told him of my plan. "Mike, I've got a proposition for you," I said. "It's a win-win for both of us." "I'm listening," Mike replied, intrigued. I explained how it would instantly help him move up to a director position by bringing in that much business to his production house, and it would also benefit me financially. I would teach him exactly how to pitch to win over Sarah and Dr. Thompson, and in turn, his company would pay me a standard finder's fee of 15%. Mike agreed instantly, and immediately put me on the line with his general manager who, upon realizing this was to be 6 months of work for a high 6-digit payout, instantly agreed and drew up a contract. As it turned out, after I gave them a detailed step-by-step playbook, they were the perfect fit, somehow understanding the needs and style of the college as well as the sort of themes they wanted to feature. Dr. Thompson and Sarah were amazed that Mike's production house was so familiar with their content that they signed them up on the spot. Even back then, using a production house wasn't cheap. Each video they produced could cost double to triple my monthly salary given that they had specialized people for each function. Producer, director, director of photography, gaffer, sound person, video editor, assistant director, production assistants, etc. But this meant that they could complete a video every 2 days. So yes, they produced 65 videos in a span of 4 months for over 130 months of my salary. And I sat back and collected the healthy 15%, which was about 20 months of my salary. This allowed me to put money aside for a holiday and the rest to further my studies with a respected film school overseas. I thought my plan ended here, and I had gotten back at my former bosses, but to my surprise, I received a call from Jessica while I was holidaying in Bali one day. Alex, you won't believe what happened, Jessica said, her voice a mix of shock and amusement. Sarah's been fired, and Dr. Thompson got a massive blasting from the president of the college. What? How? I asked, genuinely surprised. Jessica explained, the content creation project you were hired for was only given a budget equating to about a year and a half of your salary. They exceeded that budget by over 10 times. Sarah was so desperate to ensure that her content creation project could be completed that she had thrown caution to the wind, paying anything to get the job done so that she could show Dr. Thompson that she had completed the project. She approved the massive spend without getting consent from Dr. Thompson or the finance department. I couldn't help but chuckle. Well, that's quite a turn of events, I said. So that's how I got my friend Mike a super fast promotion to a full director in his production house, and a year of pay after getting unfairly fired from my job. The next one is an entitled people's story. I never thought I'd be dealing with such a ridiculous situation in my own neighborhood. My name's Mike, and I've lived in this quiet suburban community for about 5 years now. It's been pretty uneventful, until my mom had a bad fall last year and ended up needing a wheelchair to get around. I invited her to come live with me since her house had a lot of stairs and wasn't really accessible anymore. The problem was, my own place had a few steps leading up to the front door, so I decided to build a simple wooden ramp to make it easier for her to get in and out. I'm pretty handy, so I drew up some plans and got all the materials from the hardware store. It took me a weekend, but I managed to build a sturdy, functional ramp that fit nicely over the existing steps. Mom was thrilled. She could finally visit without struggling or needing help. Everything was great for about a month. Then one day, I got a knock on the door from Karen, the president of our neighborhood homeowner association. I'd met her a few times at community events, but we weren't close or anything. Hi, Mike, she said with a fake smile. I'm here about that structure you've added to the front of your house. I was confused at first. You mean the wheelchair ramp? What about it? Karen's smile got even tighter. Well, I'm afraid it's not up to code. You didn't submit plans or get approval from the architectural committee. It's going to have to come down. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Are you serious? It's just a simple ramp so my disabled mother can get into the house. How is that a problem? Rules are rules, Karen said smugly. We have standards to maintain in this neighborhood. That ramp is an eyesore. I tried to reason with her. Look, I'm sorry I didn't know about getting approval, but it's already built now, and it's not hurting anyone. Can't we just leave it? But Karen wouldn't budge. She handed me a notice giving me 30 days to remove the ramp or face fines. I was furious, but figured I'd try to work within the system. I submitted plans and an official request to the Homeowner Association Board. A few weeks later, I got a letter denying my request. Apparently the ramp didn't fit the aesthetic of the neighborhood. I couldn't believe how heartless these people were being. I decided to ignore their demands. The ramp was staying. My mom's ability to access her home was more important than their precious aesthetic. But Karen wasn't done. One day I came home from work to find a crew of guys tearing down my ramp. Karen was standing there supervising with a smug look on her face. What the hell do you think you're doing? I yelled, running up to stop them. Enforcing the rules, Karen said calmly. I warned you what would happen. I was seeing red at this point. You have no right to destroy my property! This is illegal! Karen just shrugged. We have the authority to remove unapproved structures. You should have followed the rules. I pulled out my phone to call the police, but Karen smirked. Go ahead. I used to be the fire chief. The cops won't do anything. Sure enough, when the police showed up, they seemed reluctant to get involved. They said it was a civil matter between me and the homeowner association. I was livid. As soon as Karen and her crew left, I started rebuilding the ramp. No way was I letting them win, but the next day, they came back and tore it down again. This went on for nearly 2 weeks. I'd rebuild, they'd destroy it. It was like a ridiculous game of cat and mouse. I knew I needed to do something drastic, so I started doing some research into accessibility laws and homeowner association regulations. Turns out, there were a few key things working in my favor. The Fair Housing Act prohibits discrimination against disabled individuals, including denying reasonable modifications, like ramps. The Americans with Disabilities Act requires businesses and public spaces to be accessible. Many states have laws limiting homeowner association power when it comes to necessary accessibility modifications. Armed with this information, I contacted a lawyer who specialized in disability rights cases. He agreed to take on my case pro bono, seeing how egregious the homeowner association's actions were. We filed a lawsuit against the homeowner association for violating the Fair Housing Act and my state's accessibility laws. We also included Karen personally for destruction of property and harassment. The case moved pretty quickly. The judge was clearly appalled by the homeowner association's behavior. In the end, we won a decisive victory. The court ordered the Homeowner Association to immediately approve my ramp and any future accessibility modifications. The Homeowner Association to pay for rebuilding my ramp to professional standards. A $50,000 fine against the Homeowner Association for violating accessibility laws. Karen to personally pay $10,000 in damages for destruction of property. Karen to resign from the Homeowner Association Board. The look on Karen's face when the verdict was read was priceless. All the color drained from her face as she realized how badly she'd screwed up. But the karma didn't stop there. Word got out in the community about what had happened. People were outraged at how Karen and the Homeowner Association had treated a disabled resident. At the next board election, every single member was voted out and replaced. The new board instituted major reforms, including mandatory training on accessibility laws and a more streamlined approval process for modifications. They even used part of the fine money to build ramps at the community center and pool. As for Karen, last I heard she was trying to sell her house and move, apparently being known as that awful woman who tore down a disabled person's ramp made her a bit of a pariah in the neighborhood. Can't say I feel bad for her. These days, my mom can come and go as she pleases on a beautiful, professionally built ramp. And every time I see it, I'm reminded that sometimes you have to stand up and fight for what's right, even against people who think they have all the power. The whole ordeal was stressful, but I'm glad I didn't back down. No one should have to fight so hard just to make their home accessible to a loved one. Hopefully our case helps prevent similar situations for others in the future. The next one is a petty revenge story. This happened back in the very early 70s. Not my story, but I own the truck involved. I grew up in Glendale, Arizona, as did my father. My grandparents bought their home in 1955, but my grandparents hated living in town, and after all their kids were grown, bought property near Kingman As, where they eventually built a house and moved. During one of their trips to the property to build, my dad drove them up, stayed the weekend to help build, and then drove them back home. On the way, they stopped in Wickenburg As for ice cream. Dad pulled in, parked, and everyone got out to get their ice cream. There were no other vehicles in the entire parking lot. As they were ordering, a brand new Cadillac rolled in, and rather than park in any one of the empty spaces, he parked directly behind my dad's truck. Dad didn't say a word, just climbed in and buckled up. When he started the engine, my grandmother says, "Son, there's a car behind you." Dad, "I know, Mama." My grandfather starts to grin. Dad puts the truck in reverse and very slowly starts to back up. Grandma louder and more insistent. "Son, there's a car behind you." Grandpa starts to chuckle. As soon as Dad felt the bumpers touch, he shoved the pedal to the floor, spinning the tires, slinging dirt and gravel, and shoved the Cadillac almost out into the street. Grandma is throwing a fit, Grandpa is laughing his ass off, and Dad just puts it into first and calmly drives away, smiling and waving at the caddy owner as he left. The next one is a malicious compliance story. I'm about 11 years old in Germantown, the projects of Quincy, Massachusetts, living with my father. Anytime I've asked about my mom, I got shot down with a "she's a crazy bee" hashtag. My father had many vices. Tobacco seemed to play the biggest role in our lives and in keeping him relatively sane. Cigarettes lined up like a Clash of Clans skeletal army, warding off the much bigger, much more formidable beasts that lie ahead. Individually, a cigarette holds minimal power, yet 1,000,000 times more power than none. This sad mathematical fact is what brings us to this story of the most malicious of compliances. When my dad ran out of the money he got for SSI and SSA, cigarettes became a problem, even in the late 80s. He would have me bum cigarettes from the neighbors. Some neighbors were generous. Some told me how vile it was for a father to send their child to get cigarettes. Some threw chicken bones at me. If I only had the wherewithal to reply, "Ma'am, I'm 11, or at least duck. When it got really bad, he had me walk the town looking for cigarette butts that still had some tobacco left. This was a disgusting activity that I eventually got really good at, and really sick of. One night he sends me off on another tobacco mission, but I'm in the middle of a game of Monopoly. I'm playing with Chewbacca, Starscream, and Megatron, and it's about to get good. I argue to the point of my dad throwing a handful of crappy coins at me, yelling in his raspy, post-thyroidectomy voice, "Don't come back until you have cigarettes I can smoke!" Enter MC. As blood trickles down my face, dripping onto a few dirty coins I managed to retain from their violent travels, I wonder what other crimes these coins have been complicit to. What have you done, little dime? I was done. With all of it. As an 11-year-old, I had very little cards to play, but one of them landed right in my lap. I walked in the dead of night, directly up the unnamed dirt road my dad used to drive me down while sitting on the hood, back when I was a few years younger, when I was his type. Am I ready to do this? I keep walking, seeing many cigarette butts and even an uncrushed pack, ignoring them all as I walk to the fire station. I know there's a payphone there, and this time my dad's gonna pay. I look down at my coins, my bloody dime, and call my Aunt Stella. She told me earlier this year that anytime I needed help, call her. My dad always insisted I don't do this, or ever call her for anything, because all she wants to fucking do is rat me out and see me in jail so she can keep a. Sounds like a plan. When she picked up, she knew right away, but explained in way too much detail what happened the last few months and then years, even including the essay from my dad back when he was still into me. If these balls could talk. Anyway, I cried, and tears well up even now remembering how it all just flowed out of me like a river of garbage falling over me. I knew this was going to be big trouble if I didn't have the cigarettes, and I told her. She risked her life driving to us, pack of cigarettes in her hand as she picked me up and told me to stay in the car. Even through the closed windows of a Chevy Nova, I could hear her yell, "Here's your ducking cigarettes, I'm taking off!" The saddest crap was that he took the cigarettes and turned around, no argument. He didn't even fight for me. I don't even know why to this day I even wanted him to. Aunt Stella did what I knew she would, call the cops on him and take me in. He went to jail then, eventually out of state after kids kept coming out of the woodwork who were his victims. I never looked back. Who am I kidding? I looked back every day since. The next one is an entitled People's Story. Hey everyone, this happened a few weeks ago. I'm glad I found this community to share it with LMAO. So, I'm a recently certified makeup artist and licensed esthetician in the state of NH. I've been practicing makeup artistry for almost 3 years now on other people. I've been through a lot in my life and truly just want my job to bring me joy. So because makeup is my passion, I want to make others feel beautiful as a job. It's going to take time to build clientele, and I'm about to start working as a bridal MUA's assistant, which I'm super excited about. I doubt I'll have an official business established for at least a couple years, it all depends. But for now, I'm just doing what I can, and I am always excited to have people model for me. I know I'm good at what I do, but I will never stop practicing and getting better at it. I just want to feel I've mastered it, and I'm still a newbie, so I wouldn't say I'm the best by any means, but I have done several TV commercials and have had enough practice to know I'm not bad. The goal is to work on everyone, no matter your skin tone, skin type, gender, age, sexuality, etc. Like, I don't discriminate people who do piss me off. Anyways, I had somebody message me on my Instagram account saying that they wanted their makeup done for an event, along with 6 other people. I said I'm down for the challenge, always excited to do makeup on others, and I want to do more with multiple people at a time to prepare for future bridal parties, so I said I would. Then they proceed to tell me that I'm expected to come do their makeup and facials on 7 people total, for free. I don't think I have the messages anymore, but they were so rude about it too, like just full on expecting me to think that was cool. Like, what does that do for me? I was in total shock. Like, excuse me? Just because I'm a new makeup artist doesn't mean I work for free. If I'm asking you to model for me, then yes, it's free. But if you're asking me to do your makeup, then it's my time and my money on the line. I'm not even charging people yet, but I obviously would have if this was a serious offer. I would have been fine doing discounted services too, but after they said this, I obviously was like, yeah, no, I don't do free makeup and facials. The person who messaged me on IG called me a whore. I laughed and blocked them. The duck. Then comes the next day. I don't have my phone number listed on the IG account, so not sure if they looked me up and found it somehow, or if someone gave them my number. But one of the other 7 people who was expecting me to give free services texted me. This time with a new and improved offer, $50 total, for 7 people. Not $50 per person, $50 total. I did the math, that would be about $7.14 per person. Assuming each person takes an hour per service, I'm not super fast at makeup yet, and I won't skimp on a facial. Then it's more like $3.57 an hour, or service per person. I once again was like, are you kidding me? I told them, you don't set my prices. Like, the audacity truly kills me. I will never understand people like this. Do you just not have any self-awareness, let alone self-respect? Unbelievable. No thanks. I'd rather chill at home drinking tea and watching TV cuddled up with my cat and make 0 money than bust my ass for such lousy pay. Such a joke. How pathetic. Do you think I just worked my ass off in beauty school for months on end just to make less than minimum wage working for you losers? Thought you guys might laugh at this one. I was just in awe at how insane these people were. Even if they had apologized and had genuinely asked me what I charge for my services, there's no way I'm doing anything for you after someone in your group called me a whore for not accepting free work, LMAO. That's actually insane, and I just know I'd be in for a hell of a day if I had accepted that crap. Gave me a good laugh at least. Just another day, another entitled person blocked. Thank you for watching. I would really appreciate it if you could like the video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We'll see you again tomorrow.